We have a view from Australia from Fine Leg on this episode of the Kingsgrove Sports Centre Podcast. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Kingsgrove Sports Centre Podcast, episode 45. We're inching ever closer to that half century. We might be lucky, we might be able 45. To raise the bat. Yes, as I said, today we're going to take an interesting cricketing journey around Australia. We're going to travel over 10,000 kilometres actually around Australia, and we get to speak to a very special guest very soon. But firstly, let's introduce those that are going to be doing the talking. Good morning, Hamish Solomons. How are you going?
Oh, g'day. Hello, Stuart.
Just reading a book there, Hamish. Very good. How are you?
Just getting stuck into this very high-quality piece of literature.
Yeah, good.
I look forward to talking to the author in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, good. I didn't know. It's good to know that you can read. That's helpful.
I didn't know Hamish read. That's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I haven't done a lot of reading of late because usually I fall asleep quite quickly, but I managed to stay awake through the first few chapters of this, so... there's a good wrap in itself.
It's a cracking read. It's a cracking read. Now, Hamish, very exciting because we have a new member of the team here. Would you like to introduce our latest edition?
Oh, what a great pleasure it would be to introduce the great Leisa Johns, president of the St George Sutherland Slayers. But not only that, a quite well-known media personality in her own right. Former lead on the Sunday Sports Wrap radio show, very popular to millions of listeners all across Narwee and Kingsgrove. We have now joining us on the podcast because we just thought we needed a bit of direction and a bit of sense.
Sorry about
that. To what we do. So, Leisa Johns, welcome to the team.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm not sure I should believe a word you just said, hey.
What an introduction.
I know.
What an introduction.
Pretty stoked, Narwee, and where was the other place?
Riverwood, I think.
Kingsgrove.
Kingsgrove.
I think you forgot Hurstville and Lugano. So.
Well, the ironic thing there was we tried to get at least one listener from Kingsgrove, a well-known cricket lover in Harry Solomons, but not even he listened to the radio. So.
He's too busy. He was too busy.
We had a global audience, hey? It's okay.
Yeah. I'm sure people were tuning in from all over the world to that show, weren't they?
Absolutely.
Yep. All right.
And who are you, mate? You always fail to introduce yourself.
Sorry, my name is Stuart Ailey. I know I always do. I always forget myself because I know who I am, and then you always put my name.
I do. Your name is always there on the bottom.
Okay, but and obviously we have Nick in the corner
and myself. I'm the guy who makes all this happen.
Correct, because nobody else can do it. So there's too many wires and leads and knobs and computers and stuff. So
they're happy to be back in the saddle here at the podcast. We've had to take a little bit of a break.
We took a little bit of a break. We've had a refresh.
Yeah.
We're very excited that we've got a special guest with us. So without further ado, we probably should introduce. So as I said, yes, we are taking a view of Australia from Fine Leg today. And we are delighted to introduce the author of this book and find out the story of how this all came about. We welcome from down in lockdown, down in Melbourne, Craig Dodson. Welcome to the Kingsgrove Sports Centre Podcast.
G'day, Stuart, Leisa, Hamish, Nick. Really thrilled to be on. So thanks for the opportunity to have a chat.
No problem.
One quick question from me, if possible. You are in Melbourne at the moment. It's not possible to get COVID via Zoom, is it?
No, let's just say this will be the most exciting thing I do today by a very long stretch. And if you know anyone that wants to take a 5 and 8-year-old kid off my hands after lockdown in Melbourne, feel free.
Boy.
I'm still recovering from our own lockdown a couple of months ago, so we're praying that we don't have to go again.
We're going okay. The backyard cricket pitch has got a lot more wear on it in August than it should have, but no, look, everyone in Melbourne's a bit tired and grumpy, but hopefully we're coming out the other side soon.
Fingers crossed.
Excellent. Yeah. All right. So Craig, it was last year you went on this journey.
Yeah. So last cricket season. So basically, I was about this time 12 months ago. I was sitting up late at night watching the Ashes, and I'd been retired from cricket. I'm now 42. I'd been retired from cricket 30, so I've been retired for a long time. I was watching the Ashes and I just rediscovered my love of cricket. And it was about 2 a.m. and I was watching the action. And I thought, geez, wouldn't it be a great idea if I got back into cricket? And I travelled all around the country and wrote a book about it. As you do at 2 a.m, you think you've got a great idea, so you want to tell someone. So I jumped into bed and my wife just tapped her on the shoulder and said, look, Soph, great idea. She wasn't particularly thrilled at being woken up at that hour, looked at me and said, look, Craig, you're having a midlife crisis, just get some sleep and away you go. But yeah, we sort of sat on it for a week or two and thought, no, I can get this done. I can make it happen.
You didn't think that just getting back into cricket, you could have gone down to the local club and just joined, as opposed to travelling around Australia?
Yeah, look, I had a few mates that said, look, your batting average is about 14.5. This whole thing's about playing lower grade cricket at a dodgy standard, try and get that back up. So there was probably a bit of thinking in that. But no, I think, and maybe it was an element of midlife crisis where I just thought, look, if I don't do this now and have this great adventure, it'll be an opportunity sort of lost and I won't get the opportunity again. So it was just wanting to do something big and grand and have an adventure.
Can I ask the question, you played against 10 different teams. Was 10 just the number that automatically came? Did you think that it needed to be more at any stage, or did you think that your body might not last more than 10 games?
Yeah, look, there was that aspect, but just the vagrancies of cricket where I thought cricket season, maybe 17, 18 weeks, you're going to miss games through rain. There's going to be things happen. So finished at 11, but I thought that was a safe number that even with a few hiccups, we could make that happen in the season.
So apart from obviously being inspired by watching the Aussies play the Ashes, what was the other reason you wanted to do it?
Yeah, look, the adventure in wanting to write a book was sort of sat there as the original idea, but the more I thought about it, I thought it had to be something bigger. Like it couldn't just be, oh, look what Craig's doing. That's great. Why don't I use it for an underlying purpose? And it was a pretty obvious one for me. When I was in my 30s, I went through a really rough patch with depression. So I'd lost my job, broke up with my partner, and coincidentally stopped playing cricket all within a few months of themselves, and just sort of got myself in a really bad spot for about a 6-12 month period, really struggling. Luckily, through the intervention of getting some counselling and having some really good mates, a lot who were former cricketers, that just sort of noticed, a change in my behaviour. I sort of got the help that I needed, pulled myself through the other side. Luckily married, kids, life's fantastic now, but I hadn't forgot that really challenging period. And I thought, geez, as part of this, why don't I tell my story and try and help some people that might be going through something that I did, and let's raise some money as part of it as well.
So you joined forces with Gotcha4Life, is that right?
Yeah, with Gus Worland, who I believe has been on the podcast and is a friend of Kingsgrove. So I literally just remember watching the cricket tragic probably 12 months before this adventure, and I saw Gus go to a high school with Steve Smith and talk to high school students about the importance of mental health, and that sort of always sat with me. So when I had this idea, I sort of contacted the team at Gotcha4Life. The CEO there is a chap by the name of Tim Hodgson, who'd played first-class cricket in England. We had a chat and then got Gus involved, and Gus being the infectious, lovable sort of guy, just jumped on the idea and he thought, let's make this happen. And in the end, we raised about $10,000 for the charity.
That's awesome.
Great.
Fantastic.
Great,
Great effort.
Whilst we're on the topic of mental health and the great work that Gotcha4Life do, did you find on your journey as you went around and started opening up against the guys that you were playing, that many of the guys were approaching you about the subject?
Yeah, and that's what I picked up had changed so much since, if I think about playing 10, 15 years ago when I was still playing, you just didn't talk about mental health, and it just wasn't a topic in a locker room because, you were seen as being weak, or it just wasn't something you'd throw around. But here, whether it be the team that I was playing against or a lot in instance of the opposition, after the game, I'd have guys come up and say, look, I'm going through challenges. What could you suggest that I do? And it was really refreshing that it was a topic that people were open to engage with. Hopefully through some of those chats, some people, hopefully might have started towards a sort of better mental health.
Yeah. That's obviously a great thing. Yeah.
That alone must have made the effort that you put into organise this worthwhile. Yeah,
look, it really, if you look at any sort of legacy of the project, it's a cliche, but you go, if one person ends up in a better position as part of what I did. And I know with Gotcha4Life, the $10,000 would have been invested into sort of mental health workshops and the great work they do. So, I know that it has an impact, and that's what I'm certainly more proud of that than my 10.5 batting average at the end of the tour. So, yeah.
10.5's not bad. That's okay. It's all right. You took some wickets though. You bowled some offies as well. You took a few wickets, which would have been pleasing.
Yeah. Look, that was surprising. That people were still playing for turn around the country, so that was good. That I found that not much had changed, but between being 25 or 42, you can still roll out offies like you were a teenager. It was just the batting that I found I was about half a second behind what I wanted to do and what I could actually do.
Well, you played grade cricket in Sydney at some point, so you must have been able to hold your end up.
Yeah, I was very quickly spat out of the grade system at Eastern Suburbs Cricket Club though. I came up from the country and thought I'd try my luck and had a couple of games in the lower grades and found myself in the first grade net and thought, okay, this will tell me where I'm sitting. And I looked down the net and Anthony Stewart's about 26 yards away with a brand new ball, and it was closing 7 o'clock at night. And I then proceeded to see the first ball hit the back net before I knew what was happening. And I had a theory. I thought, well, if I try and play here, I'm going to snick or something's going to happen. So I'm just going to leave the ball. So he bowled 5 balls just outside off stump, and I left every single one of them, each one being more confident with my leaves to just try and create something. Yeah. And the 6th ball, of course, was an off cutter, and my off stump was seen going somewhere towards Bondi. And I thought that's probably where my higher aspirations of cricket finished. But yeah, I played first grade come from Wagga originally, so I played first grade in the country there and played first grade club cricket in Melbourne, just below grade cricket. So could play but a little bit, but nothing outstanding.
Yeah. So speaking of, you said you come from Wagga. You played for a fairly famous club in Wagga. They have a few good former players there as well.
Yeah, the famous Lake Albert Cricket Club. So Wagga, if you've ever been there, is a town of about 50,000 people, and Lake Albert has seen Jeff Lawson, Mark Taylor and Michael Slater all come out of that club. So, not just Test cricketers, all outstanding Test cricketers come from a small little country club. When I was a kid, I used to go and watch Michael Slater train, and if he played and missed at a ball, he would run a lap of the oval. He would just stop the net session and go for a lap of the oval. So, it was... to come to a club to be so successful in such a small area was a credit to it. And, I love my time at Lake Albert growing up and being in that environment.
Now, Lake Albert was one of the clubs you went to on your trip around Australia, one of the 10 clubs. Is that right?
Yeah, it was. So it was the second trip. I wanted to get a game in first before I went back to Lake Albert because I thought, geez, I've got mates, I've got family, I've got to just... So I had a bit of a test run in the first game, and then there's parents there's grandparents, there's, funnily enough, one of my school teachers was umpiring, so I had a chat to Mick and said, look, if it's on the pads, you're not giving it. And he said that was fine. But made half a dozen and didn't set the world on fire, but it was very cool. Hadn't played there for 20 years, and there were still 2 or 3 guys that were there for my time, and it's just cool to get a chance to revisit something that you thought you wouldn't do again.
Yeah. What were
sensing.
Sorry, Hammer, go ahead.
Go on, Stewie.
No, you go, Hamish. I insist.
Thanks, mate. I'm almost sensing a WG Grace-like presence at the game when, you can turn up to the game and obviously you're the guy that's doing something special, so you can have a word to the umpire and say, look, the people that have come to watch this game, usually there'd be 10 people at this game, but now we've drawn a crowd of 25 to 100 or whatever. It's about me, so make sure you don't give me out.
Yeah, look, it wasn't quite the Don Bradman clap on to the wicket every time in his last game, but it was interesting that a lot of the games were in regional areas, so you'd find yourself doing an interview with the local paper. So everyone knew you were coming, and I thought that was going to carry me a lot of goodwill, but it just increased the sledging.
I did want to ask you about that.
Yeah, I'd always find this chirp from the slip saying, "Oh, here's this bloke come around the country. You'd hate to get a duck." So that was a common thing that greeted me to the crease.
Thank you.
Give you a turn now.
I appreciate that, Hamish. I was just going to say, what were some of the other clubs you played at?
Yeah, so it was about, as you said in the intro, it was 10,000 Ks, so pretty much got to every state bar West Australia, and it was a combination of, I guess, country and city areas. So went to a little place called Pombanite to start the adventure. So typical country town, sort of about 2.5 hours outside of Melbourne, 150 people, yet it had three senior cricket teams in their club and thriving juniors. And you sit back and go, how are you doing that with 150 people? But they do. Lake Albert, obviously went to Adelaide, played for a club called Payneham there. Rupert's Wood, which I don't know if you're familiar with. Rupert's Wood in Sunbury is the birthplace of the Ashes, so where the original Ashes trophy was born. Played grade cricket in Brisbane, the northern suburbs. Went to Tasmania. In New South Wales, played in Narrandera, which is a little town outside of Wagga. A few games in Melbourne for where I'm originally playing my club cricket. And also filled 12th man duties for Essendon Ladies Cricket Club in Premier Cricket in Melbourne, which was quite cool.
Nice.
So yeah, pretty much just gave myself a really good snapshot of clubs that I either had a connection to through mates that had moved, or just places I wanted to go and where I thought there was a good story.
Now, cricket's full of many interesting characters, Craig. Did you have any sort of standouts that you met along the way?
Yeah, look, I think this one, Leisa, will be a familiar one with anyone that's just been in that environment. Playing in Brisbane, I didn't know a soul. Like, I just had a connection that got me into the club, so I didn't know anyone, didn't know where I was going. So I arrived at the club by taxi. And as I got out of the taxi, a chap by the name of Terry, and Terry would have been mid-70s. As soon as I stepped out, he saw me, shook me by the hand and said, "There's no effing way you're going home by taxi tonight. I will be driving you home." And Terry's a typical club volunteer, running the canteen. His grandson, Nathan Sweeney, actually plays for Queensland. And true to his word, I went and played my game, came back to the club, did my speech, had drinks, had fun. Terry just sat in the corner until I was willing to leave, jumped in the back seat of Terry's car, drove me back to the CBD hotel in Brisbane. And it's fair to say there were some one-way streets that Terry hadn't seen since he'd last driven into the CBD of Brisbane. So it was an interesting car trip, but it just spoke to every cricket club has that sort of lifeblood volunteer person that just lives and breathes it. And at every club there was a Terry, and it was just great to see.
Now, is this the club you almost got a game with Queensland cricket great Jimmy Marr?
Yeah, the great Jimmy Marr. So again, I didn't know anyone at Northern Suburbs, but I had a mate who connected me in there, and their suggestion was Jimmy captained the 6th grade in Brisbane grade cricket, so have a hit with Jimmy. So Jimmy plays there and his son's there. So this is fantastic. On the Tuesday of the game, Jimmy gave me a call and said, "Mate, I've torn my quad and hamstring simultaneously on the weekend."
Ouch.
And I'm out. I'm buggered. So I was gutted, but Jimmy's brother actually stepped in and captained the team. But one of the great things from the project, Jimmy, I sort of talked to him and I said, "Oh, look, have you got any bats lying around? It'd be kind of cool if I use one of your old sort of Queensland, Australia bats, and we'll auction it off at the end." Jimmy goes back into the shed, picks out a bat, and I use that for the tour. So
that's awesome.
It's fair to say I'll never go back to a bat that's not players grade. Point onwards.
Oh man!
But it was just one of those stories where, again, a great, personal profile in the cricket community, doesn't know me from a bar of soap, but just dropped everything to help what I was doing. And there were so many stories like that along the way, which was cool. Coincidentally, 2 weeks before I turned up there, Jimmy got 170 not out in 6th grade. So he obviously still knows how to knock them around.
Still hitting them okay. Yeah, still hitting them all right. No, again, Hamish, I insist. Please go ahead.
Hello, I'm here. I wouldn't mind asking a few questions.
Okay, go on.
Right. Now, speaking of injuries, right, because obviously you're in your 40s now and you've knocked out 10 games for the first time in a decade or so. I'm presuming you pulled up quite sore, but were there any favourite injuries that you picked up along the way?
Yeah, pretty much the whole adventure from when it really got serious was had about 4 weeks to turn it around. So with all the work that I had to do, I just had no time to do any cricket preparation. At least that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. And the first game down in Pombanite, it was 7 degrees, and I hadn't picked a bat up. I'd had a few sessions in the backyard with my 5-year-old, which did confidence for the pull shot. But I found myself batting 4 out of the wicket. They were 2 for 10. And as I walked through the gate, my 5-year-old pulled my strides and said, "Please don't get a duck today, Dad." But, mate, I'm under the pump here. I don't need this. But anyway, the first ball was a nice little half volley. Sort of punched it through mid-on, and I took off like I hadn't taken off for 12 years, and I pulled my quad first ball. First ball of the adventure, and just went bang. I'd never done a muscle tear in my life, and I sort of got to the other end, and I thought, are we finished here? Are we done? One ball into the adventure, and I went up to the non-strike and said, "Mate, it's 4s or nothing here. Look, I'm in a bit of trouble." and I sort of got half a dozen and got through the game, and luckily you can bowl off spin off 1 foot with a torn quad, I found out. So I did that, and then I had 2 weeks between the next game, and I rehabbed like an elite athlete. It was probably the most serious thing I've ever done. I was icing every couple of hours because I was just thinking, I've got to get right. And the physio told me it was a 6-week injury to do a grade 2 quad. But yeah, I sort of worked my backside off to make it to the second game. Luckily, sort of got through that, and it probably didn't get right until sort of halfway through the adventure. But I was just smart that sort of was able to manage it. But yeah, I seriously thought I was buggered after one ball, and then luckily got through after that.
Yeah, right.
Imagine it was done after 1 ball. That would have been tragic.
It would have been a lot shorter book, I think.
It would have been a much shorter book. So obviously you've travelled around the country. From reading the book and like the stories you tell of not only sort of the playing but the after game gatherings and get-togethers with the clubs. It seemed like it would seem that you think that's really important. And like me and Hamish and Leisa that played cricket, that's a big part of any cricket club. Why do you think that's so important?
I think it's just the importance of connection. So I just see that you can either have a good day or a bad day playing the actual game, and cricket can test you, and it's not much fun to get cleaned up early and sit there and watch everyone play. That can be challenging, but the aftermatch stuff is really a chance to connect and unwind. And particularly I saw when I went to regional areas, you have these farmers who would sit on a tractor all week by themselves and not really have much interaction with the outside world. They go and play cricket. They go and have a beer and a chat and a laugh on a Saturday night. And the importance of that for their just general mental health and well-being, it's really hard to put a price on how important that is. And the environments are such fun. It doesn't matter whether it's grade cricket or playing at a town with a couple of hundred people. It's, there's not a lot of room for egos. You get sort of pulled back into line pretty quickly. Everyone likes to have fun. They're just really great environments, Stu.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I 100% agree. Like, it's really hard to explain to someone, like a cricket club, it's like another family.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you're part of it, you haven't really experienced that. But so people looking at something out there, go join a cricket club. You won't be sorry.
Yeah, because you get, like you were saying, you get guys like Terry that he's 70 years old and he still goes down and he volunteers and he runs the canteen because he just loves doing it. And you find that all around the place. So it's it's because they're all basically volunteers. So the presidents are volunteers, the guys in the committee are volunteers, and sometimes they might have had a connection 10 or 20 years ago because their sons or daughters played, but they still keep going long after their kids have moved on because they love the club, they love being involved. Sometimes that's their only outlet to be social. So being a part of a cricket club or any sort of sporting club is really important.
You'll have mates for life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I 100% agree. I always considered, particularly when there was a time when I was maybe a little younger and reckless, that my club, St. George, ended up becoming my second home and probably kept me on the rails somewhat. And that's important for young blokes and girls, women.
Yeah.
And also for an education too. You think about being that 16, 17-year-old, and a lot of times it's your first interaction with adults. So if you've got a good environment, it shapes you so much to go, these are my role models. Like, when I was a kid, I just wanted to play first grade in the country. Like I looked up to, there was the TV and you could play for Australia and that's great. But, I wanted to be the next guy that batted 3 for Lake Albert. And that, luckily, you have some good role models that are senior people. That carries you through into your adulthood.
Absolutely, you get to meet.
Now you've got.
Sorry, we need a signal or something. Like we need a paddle or something. Like like a green for go or red for stop. Something. You go ahead, Hamish.
All right, so you've got young kids yourself, 7 and 5, I believe, or they might have been 7 and 5 during that experience.
Correct, yeah.
Do you think this for them as a parent was something that will be a lasting experience and perhaps shape the young men that they'll become?
Look, I certainly hope so. It was one of the intents as well to go, I had kids after I finished playing cricket, so that all they've known is me repeating the story about the day I played against Stuart Broad. Like they just hear that. And that's all they know for Dad as a cricketer. So for them to sort of, and one of the best parts was to see that their dad was fallible. Like kids at that age think their dad's a Superman. And when I got, 16 in my first game, my 7-year-old tore into me and said, "Why didn't you get 100?" Like, you're getting 100 in the backyard every day. How come that's another story, but how come that didn't happen? So it was good for them to see that, that there's failure, there's success. But every time I was out on the field, I'd look across and my kids had made friends with kids from, that they didn't know, and they were in the cricket nets just having a hit. So ever since we finished the tour, and I was saying to Stu earlier, we just purchased a couple of kookaburras from Kingsgrove for the boys, that they just caught the bug. They just want to play cricket. They want to watch it on TV. And I go, if this what I did is set them on a path to love the game like I did, that's brilliant.
That's great, man. Cricket. I having not grown up with cricket, all of my experience around cricket has come from being here and doing things like the podcast and getting to meet people. And in my experience, every cricketer, no matter what grade they play at, has that story, that one story they tell over and over and over again. I'm looking at you, Charlie.
I don't know if they've all got don't know if they've all got a Stuart Broad story, Nicola.
Well, maybe not.
I don't have
500 test wickets.
Yeah. I don't have a Stuart Broad story. I've got an Ed Cowan story, and I know he made your Australia 11 or 12 that you put together. Yeah, no, I won't tell the Ed Cowan story. I might tell it later, but because it's a bit interesting. Might not be that good for Ed, but anyway.
But we've all got those stories.
We've all got those stories.
Yeah. I've got a Lisa Kiteley story. It took me about 10 years to get over it. But that's another episode.
That comes out later. So maybe as a takeaway for hopefully someone that listens to this who might be struggling with their mental health. What can you tell them? What is your best advice for someone who's struggling?
Yeah, look, I'm far from a counsellor or a mental health expert, but what I guess I picked up along the way is just the need to acknowledge that you might be struggling and that it's okay to ask for help. So the mistakes I made personally was to shut people off and go, no, I'll just soldier through and I'll battle through this and I'll fix it myself. Through experience, that just doesn't work. So the ability to reach out and go, yep, I'm not my normal self. I've noticed a change in just the way I'm feeling or the way I'm behaving. Reach out to a good friend to have a chat. Go and talk to your GP. There's a lot of fantastic resources. Beyond Blue, obviously, Gotcha4Life. If you go onto their website, that they can steer you to help as well. But the most important thing is just acknowledge that you're struggling, and that it's okay to ask for help, because that will set you on the path to sort of getting back to where you need to be. So that's general, but in terms of the advice, you've got to admit there's a challenge, and you've got to proactively sort of look for help. And if you do that, then that'll give you some great tools to go forward with.
I've got to say, I've just experienced something quite amazing whilst you were talking. When I was reading your book this morning, it made me realise that there was a guy that I know that I've trained in the past, and I hadn't sort of seen or heard of him for a long time. And I do know that he has his own battle. So I sent him a message, just purely, reminded that that's something that we need to do. When I was reading your book, and as you were just speaking there, his reply came through, and it was simply, I'm a bit average at the moment, and it just brings into perspective that from there, if we do ask the questions, if we do try and communicate, then we can try and do something about it. And I know for this guy in particular, one of the things that really helps him is to come out and have a hit. And that's one thing that I'll be looking to get him to do, is get him back in the net. So it's really important to get it out there, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and you made a really good point there, Hamish, that I guess I talked about the individual, but yourself as a friend, if you see a change of behaviour or if you're really close with someone, you can really pick up those signals. And it's just simple as asking, are you okay? Do you want to have a chat? Do you want to go down the nets? Like little things like that, are brilliant.
Can I just take the opportunity, because we got a bit deep and meaningful there, and it's very important, but we are cricket tragics, and we love to talk. We're talking to one of the great cricket tragics quite obviously right now. Can I go back to the 10 clubs that you played against and put you on the spot and just sort of get you to maybe give us a one-liner on each of those clubs, because obviously they would have done more than enough to help you on your journey. So it'd be good to just sort of maybe be able to promote some of these clubs that did some great work for you. So I'm just going to name the club. I don't think I'll be able to name this. What's it? Pombonique Cricket Club?
Pombonique, yep.
Pombonique Cricket Club. Sounds like a cricket club in France or something. All right, so I'll just go through these cricket clubs, and you just throw a one-liner about your experience there. Pombonique Cricket Club.
Almost had like a civic reception for me. The whole town turned out. Quite embarrassing, but yeah, good country people.
Lake Albert Cricket Club, I guess you touched up on.
Oh, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah, just home.
Nice.
Yeah.
I can say it.
Another Paynham Cricket Club.
Yep, Paynham Cricket Club. Travelled all the way to Adelaide for my first ever career Golden Duck. So good and bad memories.
First ever. That's a pretty good effort actually. If that was your first ever, that was pretty good.
Didn't think it was possible until it happened. And
I can tell you they're possible. Don't worry about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously the famous Rupert's Wood Cricket Club.
Yeah, steeped in tradition, but also sad that there's not enough done at that site to recognise its significance. So fantastic little community cricket club, but it deserves more in terms of where it sits in the cricket landscape.
Rightio. Northern Suburbs District Cricket Club, aside from blokes not turning up to play games.
Yeah, basically a great mix of elite cricketers and just the grade system works for me. Is the best way to explain that.
Sheffield Cricket Club.
Yep, Tasmania, sister-in-law, family connection. One of the more beautiful cricket grounds I've ever played on.
Right, okay. Narrandera Cricket Club.
Narrandera, yep. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Some of my best work.
It's about 5 hours from Sydney, Hamish, so jump in the car and get down there. Nelly got caught by bushfire on the way to Narrandera, but Narrandera was once a thriving, had its own cricket, thriving local competition. Now there's only 3 clubs in that whole little area, so I would say Narrandera's fighting the good fight to keep cricket alive, and they should be really proud of it.
Sounds like a few areas in Sydney. McLeod Cricket Club.
120 metres from my house, and luckily,
beautiful.
Luckily, none of my off spinners were sent back to my house. So that's where my boys play. So that's a new home, the new home place.
Beautiful. Port Fairy Cricket Club.
Yep, Port Fairy down near Warrnambool, so down Victorian coast. Beautiful seaside little town. Everyone should go and visit Port Fairy for a long weekend.
Royal Park Brunswick Cricket Club.
Yeah, anything of significance I achieved it at Royal Park. 5 fantastic years. That was my last game on field, and I cobbled together most of the team that I played in a first grade premiership with, most of which hadn't played for 20 years. The perfect way to go out was reuniting that team. A lot of people travelled several hours to get there to play, and haven't had more fun on the cricket field than I did that day.
I suppose we shouldn't forget the Essendon girls.
Yeah, that was a really, really great experience for me. I'd had no exposure to female cricket, and I could not have had a more welcoming environment. And, Elise Villani played there. There was, several WBBL players as well. So to look at an elite sort of cricket environment as well was really, really cool. I'm not sure I did much in leading fielding practice or left much of an input from a playing side of things. But what I found out with Essendon was that, we all think about, males, I think a lot think that female cricket has just sort of jumped up in the last 5 or 10 years. Essendon taught me that that's a club with 100 years of tradition, and that female cricket has as rich a history as any male cricket club going around. So for me, it was a great education.
Absolutely, you can't forget the women cricketers. They've been playing almost just as long as the guys have.
Well, we're responsible for the overarm bowling.
That's what.
Yeah,
we
discussed that at length actually on the podcast episode. We did.
Awesome.
You girls in your big dresses.
That's right. you got to look fine to play cricket.
Imagine if fashion was different, we'd still be rolling it underarm.
Yeah, right.
Hey?
Yeah.
Guys, do you think we need to find out a little bit more about this golden duck?
Well, do you cover the golden duck in the book?
The golden duck is in the book. Yeah, I reckon we should leave that.
Yeah.
That should be. We should leave that for the book. We don't want to give all the secrets away.
Well, I think it would be important for Craig to let us know if it's possible for our listeners where they can get a copy of his book.
Yeah, so there's a few different ways you can do it. So if you're on social media, so if you're on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, if you just put in just from Fine Leg, you'll find me and my handle, and that'll have details on how to get the book. So just from Fine Leg. Or if you don't have that, just jump onto Google, put the title of the book in, A View of Australia from Fine Leg. If you put that into Google, that'll have an online bookstore link where you can buy the book from. So all proceeds are going to Gotcha4Life. And look, as I said, I've had so many people that have come up and said, this is the first book I've read since high school. So it's, it's aimed for people that like a laugh and just like those cricket stories and would like to support a good cause. So and for social media from Fine Leg, or just Google A View of Australia from Fine Leg.
Yes. And for people like me, it's even got pictures in it.
I was just going to say, and importantly for Hamish, it has some pictures. It has some pictures in the back of it. Yeah.
And for people who can read and complete a book, I've read some snippets of it, and I really enjoyed it. And I just sat there. I found myself giggling along because some of the stories were just so familiar, and the characters you describe are a really great way of describing the cricket club and the characters and the people you met. And I could really relate. So. I can't wait to read the full version. Yeah.
I think every cricket club is pretty much the same. They've always kind of got the same type of characters, and you have the same story. So if you play cricket, you'll definitely be able to relate. You'll be able to relate to all the stories. So
Craig, any plans?
One final question.
Hey.
You need a paddle. Put your hand up.
Railroad Leisa. Let's defer to Leisa here, please.
Go on, Leisa.
Any plans of writing a book of a view of the world from Fine Leg? India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka.
Yeah, it's a small issue of budget and spousal approval that might get in the way of that. But look, it's I'd love to do something like that, and I guess this whole project's just re-energized my sort of love for cricket. So
that was my first thought. I wonder what Mrs. Dodson's going to think about that at 3 a.m.
I tell you, when I was really struggling with the bat early in the piece, Sophie actually got on top of a bowling machine and fed me a few in desperation to try and get my form back. So
that's love, man.
It wasn't in the marriage vows, but. Where we got to.
I think that's covered in the insignis part.
Yeah.
In poor form.
Yes. Hamish, please go ahead with your question. Yeah.
I was actually great minds think alike. I was just curious as to future plans for yourself from here.
Yeah, look, I guess, Melbourne, it's difficult. We don't know whether we're playing cricket this year or we're just on hold. But what I sort of learnt was that the formula I did worked. So to go in a cricket club, play a game, have a chat about my experience and raise some money, even if I only do that on a smaller scale, I'd like to think I could do a few of those this year. There are a few clubs that were missed out in the first cut that were interested. So, if I did a few of those, that's a great way to keep the spirit of what I'm doing alive, I guess. So, I think that would be good.
Absolutely, yeah. Maybe you might be. I think you touched in the book. You think about maybe like a charity game here and there where you can get some people involved. Yeah. I'm sure Gus will be keen to play in one of those. So
one of the great things I did, you'll see in the book. I sort of approached a lot of ex-international cricketers to see if they'd give me a hand with promoting the book, and I put together a team of people that I just approached out of nowhere and said, "Can you give me a hand?" Darren Lehman, Damien Martin, Ed Cowan, as you mentioned. So, maybe there's a chance to do something with those guys and girls down the track as well, which is sort of cool.
Brilliant stuff.
Well, if you come to Sydney, we're ready to get involved.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. And look, it'd be remiss of me before we wrap this up not to say a massive thank you. The first time I went to Kingsgrove was as a boy from the country at at 12. We did a regional tour playing teams from Sydney, and we all came into the oasis of the yellow building, and I think I spent about 4 hours there to see everything that was there. And getting the catalogue every year was like Christmas Day. So and now to be buying bats from kids from Kingsgrove, it's a fantastic business that you run, and such great contributors to cricket, and very thankful for the opportunity to have a chat today.
Thank you for that, Craig. We've loved having you on. It's been a brilliant chat. I encourage everybody to get in contact with Craig. Get a copy of the book. It's a great read, and you'll also be helping out a great cause and a great charity in Gotcha4Life. Gus Warren is doing some great work. And as we like Craig said, if you are struggling, there's no shame in putting your hand up and saying, I need some help. And like Hamish said, if you know someone that's a bit down, just shoot them a text and let them know that you're thinking of them, and sometimes that's just enough, isn't it? Just to let someone just getting a text and letting them know that there's someone out there thinking of them, which is great. So
of course, we've discussed Gus's foundation, Gotcha4Life. If you want to check out anything that they've got, their website's Gotcha4Life.org. We'll put the link in the description of this video. And if you have any other comments or feedback on the podcast episode today, we've really appreciated having Craig with us. And send us your feedback where you can listen to us. If you're watching the podcast on YouTube, we'll have the video version of the podcast on YouTube. We're happy to have you joining us. We're on Apple Podcasts or iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, KSCpodcast.com. Anywhere else you listen to podcasts, if you want to add it using our RSS feed, the link for that is in the description of our YouTube videos. And then we welcome your feedback and suggestions or comments on Facebook.com/Kingsgrove Sports Center. We're on Instagram as Kingsgrove Sports and Twitter as Kingsgrove Sport. Use the hashtag KSC Podcast to reach out to us, please.
Brilliant. Thank you, Craig. Great work.
No problems. Thanks, everyone.
Enjoy. Hopefully you get out of lockdown soon in Melbourne.
Yeah, good luck.
Thinking of everybody down there. If you're in Victoria, listen to the podcast. Great way to fill in some time.
Yeah. There's a great episode about some of the biggest, most interesting changes in cricket that discusses the overarm bowling and how that came about.
Look us up.
I highly recommend that episode. It was a real fun one.
Episodes. Anyway, everybody, thank you for joining us. It's been a fantastic episode, and we will catch you next time on the Kingsgrove Sports Centre podcast.